in the Blessed One's love for his people Israel, and his great desire for their good, to the point of calling them sons, and the portion of the Hashem, and inheritance, along with many other terms of affection which show his great love for Israel, viz. Malachi 1:2 I have loved you, said the Hashem, etc. He distanced them from all forms of evil, especially from Lashon Hara and Rechileth. For it is these which bring men to quarrels and contention, and which very often can lead to the spilling of blood, as the Rambam wrote, Hilcheth Dioth 4:1. Even though there are no mocketh stripes for transgression of this negative commandment, it is a great sin, which leads to the killing of many souls in Israel, for which reason it, i.e., do not go tale-bearing among your people, Vayikra 19:16, is followed by, do not stand idly by the blood of your brother, as evidenced by the episode of Dog Ha-Domi and Nov, the city of priests. 1 Samuel 22:9. Some additional great evils brought about by this despicable trait. It is well known that the sin of the primal serpent was brought about by the Lashon Hara, that it spoke against the Holy One, blessed be He, saying to Eve, He Gd ate from this tree, the tree of knowledge, and created the world. By which Eve was enticed to do likewise, viz. Shabbath 146a. The serpent was intimate with Eve and injected Zohama, pollution, into her. Hence, the sin of illicit relations, and also death to all mankind. Hence, the spilling of blood. And through this, i.e., Lashon Hara, it induced Adam and Eve to transgress the will of the Holy One, blessed be He. It follows that one who speaks Lashon Hara adopts its, the serpent's, trait, which undermines the creation. And the descent of Israel into Egypt, too, stemmed initially from this, i.e., from Lashon Hara. Viz. Bereshith 37:2. And Joseph brought evil report of them, the sons of Leah, to their father. Whence it was decreed by heaven, measure for measure, that he be sold into slavery, his having accused them of calling their brothers, from the maidservants, slaves, viz. Bereshith Rabbah 84:7 and Yerushalmi Pia 1:1. Though Joseph had a heter, halakhic license, for bringing this evil report. As the exegetes explain, it is to be noted that this heter did not avail him, and he was sold into slavery. And again, the entire reason for our present exile is the sin of the spies. Viz. Tehillim 6:25-27. And they murmured in their tents against the land. They hearkened not to the word of the Hashem. And he lifted up his hand in oath against them, to scatter them in the lands. As Rashi explains there, and as the Ramban wrote, on Bamidbar 14:1. And it is stated in Erichin 15a, that the sin of the spies was essentially Lashon Hara, their giving out an evil report of the land. And because they then, on the eve of the 9th of Av, cried a vain cry, it, the 9th of Av, was decreed for them as a crying for the generations. Example, the destruction of both temples, etc. And countless other evils befell us because of this grave sin. For all the sages of Israel who were killed by King Yenai in the days of Shimon ben Shittach, the brother-in-law of King Yenai, were also killed because of the sin of Rechileth, viz. Kiddushin 66a. And the murder of the Tana, Elazar Hamadai, which also contributed to the destruction of Bitar, was likewise caused by Rechileth, which was spoken against him before Ben Koziva, viz. Ika Rabbah 2:4. And because of the gravity of the evils found in this evil trait, the Torah exhorted us specifically against it by negative commandment, viz. Vayikra 19:16. Do not go tale-bearing among your people, as shall be explained below. As opposed to anger, cruelty, and levity and the other corrupt traits, which even though they undermine the majesty of the soul and its form, and they were alluded to in many places in the Torah, as explained in the words of Chazal. With all this, there is no explicit negative commandment against them. As there is against Rechileth, in the Count of Tariag, the 613 commandments of the Torah. And we shall note yet another reason for the Torah's exhorting us explicitly against these. Lashon Hara and Rechileth. For when we analyze them in truth, we find them to include almost all the negative and positive commandments which obtain between a man and his neighbor, and many between a man and his maker. as we shall explain, G.D. willing. It is for this reason that the Torah exhorted us against these explicitly, so that we not become enmeshed in this evil snare. I shall explain this with the help of the Blessed One. And from this there shall follow, incidentally, great benefit vis-a-vis many other halakha. And also, perhaps, because of this, the Yetzer will be smitten when he, the transgressor, perceives the great havoc and harm wrought by his speech. And here I begin, with the help of him who grants a man knowledge. First we must know the principles of these halakha of Lashon Hara and Rechileth. Lashon Hara is speaking disparagingly against one's friend, and Rechileth, telling one the evil thing that his friend has spoken against him or done against him. The principles, Lashon Hara and Rechileth, is forbidden even if true, as will be explained below, please G.D., in the name of all the poskim. Also, the prohibition of Lashon Hara and Rechileth applies both in his, the object's, presence, and not in his presence. Also, there is no difference between speaking and receiving, Lashon Hara and Rechileth. All of which we shall explain further. A receiver of Lashon Hara is one who believes in his heart what is told him by his friend even if he does not abet him in the telling. But only believes in his heart the Lashon Hara and Rechileth that he has heard. If he does believe it, he is called the bearer of a false report and transgresses, Shemoth 23:1. Do not bear a false report. All of these principles have roots and branches, as in the other parts of the Torah. May the Hashem grant that we know them comprehensively. And know that whenever we write that he transgresses both the negative and the positive commandments and the three curses attaching to them, which we shall mention and elucidate below, our intent is both Lashon Hara and Rechileth, and both what is false and what is true. And this is what we shall refer to in the Bir Mayim Chayim, as in the first four modes, unless we explicitly state that it applies only in one of them. And it shall then remain necessary for us only to explain in respect to all of the negative or positive commandments whether they apply in his, the object's presence or not in his presence, or to the speaker or to the receiver. And those negative or positive commandments which include all of the modes, I shall refer to, in short, in the Bir Mayim Haim as in all the 8 modes. That is, Lashon Hara and Rechileth, in his presence or not in his presence, both to the speaker and to the receiver, and both if false or if true. Remember these things, for I will not reiterate them in the introduction. First we shall explain how many negative commandments one transgresses in the speaking of Lashon Hara and Rechileth, and then, how many positive commandments. Then, how many curses he brings upon himself, and, further, how many great Ishurim, prohibitions, result from this. I shall divide this introduction into 2 parts, the first, to be called Maker Haim, and a super commentary around it called Bir Mayim Chayim. The reason for these names I have given in the preface. In the Bir Mayim Chayim it will be made clear to which mode each negative or positive commandment applies, along with some other halakha. This I begin with the help of him who grants a man knowledge.